Welcome to the Prepper Almanac. Thank you for joining us today. It is deeply appreciated. In today's video, we are going to discuss over 20 must-have supplies for apartment preppers and city dwellers. And if I give you value in today's video, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. I would appreciate it. And feel free to share the video with others. It helps me out. When most people think of preppers, they picture people living in a house somewhere in the country. However, preppers can be anywhere, including small apartments in large urban areas. The challenges of prepping for a natural or human-made disaster can be challenging for city dwellers because of a lack of storage space. But the need to be prepared is just as great. When you consider the high number of people living in close proximity to you, the need may even be greater. For the purpose of this video, we will examine what you need to have on hand in the event you are unable to leave your apartment for an extended period of time. These days, it's not difficult to imagine situations that might make it unsafe for you to venture outside. It could be anything from a riot in the streets to a natural disaster. Here is our list of must-have supplies apartment preppers should have on hand. Let us know in the comment section below what you think of the list. And if you have additional thoughts, leave those down there as well. 1. Bottled water. During a civil or natural emergency, your water supply could be affected. Store as much bottled water as you can, and consider purchasing a water purification method such as potable aqua. 2. CB and ham radios. If you don't have internet or cellular communication, CB and ham radios are essential. A CB radio is for short-range communication between individuals, and you can use a ham radio for longer-range group discussions. 3. Fire ladder. Depending upon how high your apartment building is, a fire ladder could be a lifesaver if elevators aren't working and stairwells are inaccessible. This escape rope ladder works for 2 to 12 stories. 4. Fire extinguisher. Don't forget about this crucial piece of safety equipment. Household extinguishers are labeled A, B, or C for their type of use. A is best for wood, paper, and cloth. B is for flammable liquids, such as cooking oil or gasoline, and C is for electrical fires. 5. Window alarms. To discourage a break-in and alert you if one occurs, you might want to install window and door alarms. 6. Door bars. Standard door locks might not be enough to protect you from intruders, so door bars are another consideration for your safety. 7. Blackout curtains. Blackout curtains can eliminate someone's ability to see inside your home both during the day and at night when you have lights on. 8. Non-perishable food. Store at least a 3-day supply of food that doesn't require refrigeration or cooking. Examples are canned fish, crackers, dried fruits and nuts, baked beans, granola, protein bars, and peanut butter. If you have a baby or pets, don't forget to include their needs in the equation. 9. Hand-operated can opener. If the electricity is out, canned soup or beans won't do you much good without a manual opener. 10. Battery-operated or hand crank radio. Keep up with news and weather if the power is out and the internet is down with an old-school battery-operated radio, or one you can power this one by hand. 11. Flashlight and batteries. Have several flashlights in different sizes and strengths on hand for emergency lighting. Make sure you have enough fresh batteries too. 12. Candles. If the power goes out, you'll be glad you had a supply of candles ready. Keep a lighter and some matches nearby. 13. First aid kit. You should be well stocked in bandages, medical tape, antibiotic ointment, and other first aid supplies. You can buy first aid kits online, but you're better off building one yourself. 14. Towelettes. During the early weeks of the pandemic, these products flew off the shelves. They come in handy for cleanup tasks when water is in short supply. 15. Trash bags. You'll find many uses for trash bags in an emergency. Rain poncho and temporary shelter are 2 of them, but there are many other uses for trash bags. 16. Portable generator. Who says generators are only for people with big houses? There are many small generators available for apartment use. 17. Hand crank cell phone charger. Did you know there was such a thing? This ingenious device is a hand crank USB charger, radio, flashlight, and reading lamp all in one. 18. Portable oven. If the power is out, you can use a small grill like this one for cooking on your patio or balcony. However, if you'd prefer to cook indoors, a small backpacking stove will allow you to cook some food and boil water. 19. Toilet paper. During the early days of a certain pandemic, Some people went a little bit nuts with the amount of toilet paper they stockpiled, but that doesn't mean you don't need it. The good thing is that you can squish the rolls down for storage. And if you run out, there are many toilet paper alternatives. 20. Paper towels, paper plates, and plastic utensils. We all are trying to limit our use of disposables, but desperate times call for desperate measures. 21. 5-gallon plastic bucket with lid. While we're on the bathroom subject, a 5-gallon bucket can serve as an emergency toilet. If your toilet is working, you can use these handy buckets for all kinds of other uses in an emergency. 22. Cash. It's always prudent to have some cash on hand for use when you may not be able to use your bank cards. Cash is king. 23. Duct tape. It's small. And it works for so many purposes. Check out our video on the channel about the many uses of duct tape. You've no doubt thought of a few other things that pertain to your particular home and people in your household. Next comes the challenge of finding the space to store your supplies. That's the most challenging part of being an apartment prepper, isn't it? Since we are talking about apartment dwellers, here are some additional quick 10 tips for apartment preppers. An apartment is not a great place to be when disaster strikes. Not that you can't be a prepper while living in an apartment. You certainly can. In fact, I lived in an apartment for several years after getting into the prepper lifestyle. But the fact is, apartments are filled with lots of people and usually located in areas with a high population density. If you're forced to bug in, an apartment can be difficult to defend. It's hard to collect rainwater and other supplies. And there's not a lot of space for food and water storage. Now that all you apartment preppers are feeling depressed, I have some good news. You can still get through an SHTF event as an apartment dweller, but there are some things you need to know. 1. The closer you are to the city, the higher your need to bug out. 2. Stockpile freeze-dried and dehydrated food because it takes up less space. 3. Consider over-penetration when choosing a firearm. You don't want to hurt your neighbors. 4. Know where your water heater is so you can use it for drinking if necessary. 5. Consider getting a water bob, plastic liner for bathtub for water storage. 6. Get a larger than average medical kit. There may be lots of people to help. 7. If you can get an additional storage area or garage with your apartment, do so. 8. Consider doing bucket gardening. Being able to supplement your food storage with fresh herbs and/or veggies is a good idea. I did a separate video on bucket gardening, so check that out on the channel if you want to know how. It's called 20 Foods Preppers Can Grow in Buckets Year-Round. 9. Get creative with storage. Under your bed is good, but there are many other locations you may not have thought of. 10. Try to identify a place to mount antennas for communications. Since we are talking about apartments, now let's talk about how to defend your apartment from looters during a disaster scenario. While there are many preparedness videos out there about home defense, most of them are about defense for someone living in a house. While you obviously can't survive in your apartment forever, you could survive there until the crisis is over. Here is how to defend your apartment from looters after the SHTF. We even have another video on the channel called 11 Home Security Tips for a Prepper After a Disaster or SHTF Scenario if you want to check it out. The first thing you need to fortify is your windows. Even if you're not on the ground floor, your windows are still vulnerable to attack or objects being thrown through them. Here are some things you can do. Replace your glass windows with acrylic glass. Permanently pin your window shut. You could use nails, pins, screws, or extra window locks. Install security film. This stuff will slow down anybody trying to break through the window because the film holds the glass together when it breaks so it won't shatter. Install window guards. Install chicken wire. Nail chicken wire over the inside of your windows, bend down the nails to hold the wire in place. This would be so difficult to get through that most looters would give up and move on. After windows, the next most likely entry point is your doors. Replace the doors in your apartment with metal doors. Normal wood doors can be easily beaten down by a determined invader. Install heavy-duty locks, chains, deadbolts, swing bars, and so forth. The locks will make you look paranoid to other people, but you'll be glad you have them after the SHTF. The with problem locks is that they're only as good as the frame holding the door in place. Buy long screws and use them to reinforce your doors. If your door has screws that reach all the way into the studs around it, no one will be able to kick it in. Install door stops and security bars. The harder it is to open your door, the better. Now for the really fun stuff. You better have suitable weaponry in your apartment if you hope to resist home invasions and SHTF scenarios. While you may not have to use firearms for defense during SHTF, at least having them in your apartment would be good for peace of mind. The first firearm you need for apartment defense is a handgun. This is the gun you keep on your nightstand and can keep strapped to your hip throughout the crisis. While you should never depend on a handgun as your primary weapon, as all pistol rounds are underpowered, it is still an excellent backup weapon and a good choice to respond to emergencies quickly. Also, plan on storing at least 500 rounds of handgun ammunition for extended SHTF situations. Remember that an ammo shortage could occur that could last for months after the situation as well. Next up would be a pump-action shotgun in 12 gauge of 20 gauge. Either of these is among the most effective close-range defensive weapons available. Pump actions are a superior choice than semi-autos for the reason that they will feed literally anything you give them, plus the sound of you racking a shell can be a deterrent to an intruder as well. Examples here include the Mossberg 500 or the Remington 870. Have at least 250 rounds of shotgun ammo stored. Consider a semi-automatic defensive rifle as well, such as Mini 14, AR-15, or AK-47. A pistol and a shotgun should be sufficient for defending your apartment, but a defensive rifle would be a better choice for fending off multiple attackers. For instance, if your apartment complex comes under attack and you have to fire down onto the streets, a semi-auto rifle is the best choice. Have at least 1,000 rounds set aside. While we're talking about firearms, I should mention that you'll want to buy some hearing protection. Needless to say, gunshots are incredibly loud when outside and will be even louder indoors. Invest in a quality set of hearing protection and your ears won't regret it when the time comes. What good is defending your apartment if you don't have enough provisions to survive there for a long time? You need to be well stocked in your apartment, and even if space is limited, especially if you have a studio apartment, there's still a lot you can do. We have many videos on this channel if you want to check those out further. The first thing you need is water. For one person living alone in an apartment, the bare minimum is 2 gallons of water per day. Most people say 1 gallon, but you'll want to have extra water for things like cooking and bathing. So to make it, say, 3 months, you'd need 180 gallons of water. Store this water in either big containers or in small water bottles, and rotate it out once every 6 months. The next thing you need is food. Specifically, food that is nutritious, long-lasting, and non-perishable. Again, as with water, shoot for a 3-month supply. Normally, I'd suggest lots of basics like flour, beans, rice, pasta, and so forth. But those foods require lots of cooking, and it will be difficult to cook if the power is out and it isn't safe to go outside. That means you'll want to buy lots of foods that require little or no preparation, such as canned soup, canned fruit, canned veggies, cookies, crackers, dry cereals, protein bars, breakfast bars, dehydrated food, freeze-dried food. Admittedly, it won't be a very healthy diet, but the idea is just to survive until things return to normal. If you're worried about eating healthy, dehydrate lots of fruits and veggies while you can, and buy some multivitamins and other healthy supplements. If some of your foods need to be heated up, you'll need to be careful about how you cook them because most emergency stoves emit dangerous smoke and fumes. Fortunately, there are a few ways to cook indoors. Use your fireplace if you have one. Otherwise, use a sterno stove to warm up your food, or use a butane stove next to an open window for short periods of time. Just be aware that doing this could attract some dangerous people. Next up, you're going to need personal hygiene items. This includes the usual basics like soap, shampoo, deodorant, toothpaste, and dish soap. Finally, have a healthy supply of medicines. Especially any prescription meds, if applicable. You'll also need a complete first aid kit, which should consist of the following items at a minimum: antiseptic wipes, antibiotics, bandages, cotton swabs, CPR mask, elastic wrap, finger splint, gauze pads, hand sanitizer, medical tape, SAM splint, scissors, sterile pads, tourniquet, Tylenol. If your apartment manager allows it, getting a dog as a security system would be another wise investment. Beyond giving you badly needed companionship when you're holed up in your apartment, a dog can alert you to potential intruders as well. Even a small dog under 35 pounds will be better than nothing. Just make sure you designate a place in your apartment where your dog can relieve itself. You'll also need lots of small trash bags, maybe some kitty litter, and containers where you can keep the waste. Another thing you should do is black out your windows at night. If there's a citywide power outage but people see light coming from your window, they'll assume you have lots of supplies, and they'd be right. So try not to use lights after the sun goes down. But if you must, hang blackout curtains so no one sees them. Finally, if you don't already live in one, you should move to an apartment that's not on the ground floor. In fact, the higher the floor, the safer you'll be. It's much easier to defend the top of a staircase, and you'll have a better view of what's happening in the streets. Plus, most looters won't bother climbing too high before moving on to an easier target. As you can see, defending an apartment or condo isn't that different from defending a house or homestead. It all comes down to fortifying your doors and windows, having the proper weaponry to defend your home, and having a large stockpile. If you can do that, you'll have a very good chance of surviving until the crisis is over or until it's safe to relocate. As we wrap up today's video, if you have any questions or if there are any topics that you would like discussed in the future, let us know in the comments section below. We love to get video ideas from the community. And let us know what you think of today's video as well. We always appreciate input. Be sure to like today's video and subscribe to the channel to learn more about prepping and share the video with others that may have a passion for prepping or are curious about prepping in general. In addition, to support the channel, feel free to click the thanks button below. And lastly, we have put some links to some prepper supplies that you might want to check out in the description below. Thanks for watching the Prepper Almanac.